Hi, friends. I'm going to recap one of the thriller horror movies named Held. The movie begins with a scene of a parked car on the side of a road and a young girl. And a young girl is sitting at the back seat having a drink with two men. The guy in the front then tells the other guy, "She's all yours," right when the car windows goes up and the doors lock. Realizing what's happening, the girl gets really scared and panics. Now, the next scene is we see a car driven to a vacation house in nowhere. We see a woman named Emma Barrett inside and Joe as her driver. Joe is curious about Emma, asking her why she is all alone and not with anyone else. So Emma tells him she's on a weekend trip with her husband who will join her the next day. Finally, they reach their destination, a house surrounded by beautiful big trees. The driver said that he usually goes hunting here, but he was unaware that this house exists here. Before Joe leaves, he asks for an extra tip, sounding really desperate and in need of money, so Emma gives him some. Once he's gone, Emma enters the code to unlock the door and turns off the security alarm. The place is super secure. She opens all the advanced windows, and the front door has a big magnetic bolt lock. She checks everything that is set up in the house, including something to cook. The kitchen drawer and the phone line. Emma also finds a book that contains rules and regulations for those who are staying in the rental house. She then walks towards a room and discovers that one of them is locked, so she moves on. She goes to another room and unpacks all of her belongings. Later in the evening, she goes swimming and then washes off in the shower. There's a loud knock which freaks her out. She goes out and finds a dozen roses on the doorstep with a note written on. After Emma takes them inside and locks the door and relaxes with a glass of wine. Accidentally, she spills some wine in front of her, but as she goes to clean up, with the help of a kitchen napkin, she notices a small gap between the floor and the table. She looks under the table with the help of a flashlight and discovers where the water is going. Before she could find anything, her phone started ringing. She ignores the call but gets distracted by a car approaching. It turns out to be her husband Henry Barrett arriving a day earlier. Strangely, she doesn't seem that happy to see him even though they're celebrating their wedding anniversary. Henry asks Emma how was her journey, but she said she left her notebook in the car. As they hang out drinking wine in the backyard, we find out that Emma and Henry have been together for 9 years and they're going through some problems in their marriage. Henry tries to be romantic, but Emma declines, saying that she's feeling cold. It was clear then that their lack of physical intimacy is one of the issues in their relationship. Henry goes back inside the house, and when Emma tries to talk to him, he asks for another drink. She pours them both a bit of whiskey, and here we learn that Henry was previously married to a woman named Emily 9 years ago, and they had a son together. All of a sudden, Emma struggles to plug in her charger and starts feeling dizzy. So Henry lends a helping hand. She eventually falls in bed, and at the same time, Henry complains that he's sleepy too. So they both get into sleep. Later that night, the red security system light turns green, indicating someone entered the house. We see a shadow coming into the room and changing Emma's clothes, and gets ready to inject her with something. We see the man is wearing a mask. Next morning, she wakes up and see a rose resting on her nightstand. There's also a note besides it, along with 2 cups of hot coffee. At first, she pays no attention, but then she realizes that she's not wearing the clothes she was wearing the other night. She then tells Henry that she's dressed in much nicer nightgown than the one she went in bed with. She also inquires about the coffee. Henry doesn't think much of it and he wishes to keep sleeping. But Emma won't let him sleep any longer, and together they read the note, which wishes them happy anniversary. Things get even bizarre when the husband claims that he didn't send his wife any flowers. Even their phones were missing. As Henry examines his wardrobe, he too realizes that something is wrong. The clothes hanging inside doesn't belong to them. Therefore, they decided to go to their car to escape, but they couldn't find the car keys. Then they hear noises in the orange trees behind the car and catch a glimpse of someone passing by. So Henry goes to check it out and tells Emma to go back inside the house. Once inside, Emma locks the door. She picks up the landline phone to call for help. But then, a strange voice on the line tells her to obey us. The TV turns on and shows different views from cameras around the house, and also show footage of Emma from the night before, and she realizes someone is watching them. Moments later, Henry returns to the house with a bleeding head and says someone attacked him from behind, but he didn't see who it was. The landline phone suddenly rings. Henry answers the phone, and the same voice from earlier informs them that they are not allowed to leave the house and must follow certain rules. The voice claims to know everything about their action, assuring them that their staying inside will keep them safe. Desperate to escape, they attempt to leave the house, but the security system activates, locking all the doors and covering the advanced windows with metal grates. Emma grabs a wooden stool and prepares to break a window when she suddenly cries out in pain, clutching the side of her head. Henry rushes to her side only to see a strange device behind her wife's ears causing the pain. The voice insists they must remain indoors to ensure their safety, and when there's Henry a camera hidden in the smoke detector, he tries to retrieve it, but his own sonic device is triggered, causing him to collapse. The voice then emphasizes the importance of obedience as the key of happiness. The voice then tells them to go inside the bedroom. Before they step into the bedroom, the voice tells Henry that a man should always open the door for his wife, and then tell Emma to smile and thank him. Following his directions, they clean themselves and change into 1950s style clothing and head to the kitchen. Emma is ordered to cook dinner while Henry is instructed to retrieve a hidden laptop from behind some books and sit beside Emma. With no internet connection, Emma continues chopping veggies repeatedly while Henry is told to open a file on a laptop. To his shock, the file reveals screenshots of text messages between Emma and someone else. Henry is then forced to read the messages aloud as his wife continues preparing the meal. The next file contains a video showing Emma in bed with another man named Ryan. Henry became upset and wants to leave, but the voice tells him to stop and forces them to have dinner. When the husband asks her about it, she insists it's over and apologizes. But Henry is deeply upset by this and accuses her of previously declining his intimate move because of her affair. Back in their room, despite the husband's rage, the voice commands the couple to dance. Henry refuses to do it, but the sonic device in his head buzzes again, keeping him in check. As if that wasn't enough, the voice then tries to make them have sex. Emma stops herself from pushing her husband away, clearly not enjoying the situation. Henry stops, saying that he can go through with it, but his sonic device is triggered again. This causes him to collapse and bleed from his ear. Later, while the wife tends to his wound, Henry asks Emma why she did not stop him. To which Emma recalls, as we see in the beginning of the movie. She says that she believes staying silent is better than speaking up. It is confirmed that the girl from the movie start was a younger Emma who had been essayed. Henry then reassures Emma, promising to protect her and prevent her with such incidents in the future. It seems they are working through the issues. In the next scene, static crackles through the speakers and their driver's voice come through the front gate intercom. The driver Joe has found Emma's notebook in his car and he is attempting to return it. Emma and Henry urgently pound on the door trying to get Joe's attention, but he's too far to hear them. Emma then has an idea and she uses the flashlight through the peephole, successfully catching Joe's attention, and then Joe can finally hear their calls for help. But as Joe tries to climb over the gate, someone suddenly jumps out and attacks him, dragging him away. Seeing this, Emma realizes that if the person who took them in dealing with Joe, then no one is keeping an eye on them. She runs and disables the camera on smoke detector and it doesn't get shocked. Henry is worried that Emma is too brave to do this, while Emma decided to check the small space under the kitchen table that she saw earlier. She finds a hidden space underneath it. Henry tells her that it doesn't look like a good idea, but in spite this, Emma goes in and sees nothing that could help her down there. Just then, Henry hears someone entering the house, and then we see the intruder coming in and hitting Henry. The intruder then pulls Emma out of the hiding spot, uses a device on his wrist to trigger the device in her ear. Then he injects her with a liquid that makes her pass out. When Emma wakes up, she sees that she's wearing a different old fashioned dress. In the living room, she sees someone sitting there. There's an unconscious man tied to a chair there who turns out to be Ryan. Emma runs to untie him, but the voice warns her not to touch him. Ryan is confused, starts to panic when he noticed a knife on a nearby table. He turns to Henry for help, but Henry did not wanted to help him because, obviously, Ryan had an affair with Henry's wife. Things get worse when Ryan asks, "If she was so happy with you, why did she slept with me?" Henry was really angry to the point where he grabs the knife and goes to attack Ryan. But then the voice stopped him and instructs him to give the knife to Emma and commands her to kill Ryan and threatens to kill Henry if she doesn't obey. Emma refuses and the voice tortures Henry by sending an electric shock to his head, causing him to collapse. Left with no other option, Emma stabs Ryan in the stomach, killing him. In the next scene, we see Emma. She's in her bedroom, clearly sad that she had killed her lover. Henry comforts her by handing her a glass of whiskey and then goes out to tidy up. As Emma is about to drink it, she suddenly remembers that the alcohol might have been spiked, like the one which caused them both to pass out on the first night. She attempts to call Henry but soon realizes that the cameras are watching her. To fool the surveillance, she pretends to sip from the glass but carefully pours it under the bedside table, hidden from the view of the smoke alarm camera. Emma then pretends as if she has lost consciousness when the masked man comes to check on her. Once the man leaves, she calls out for Henry and discovers the room was locked at the beginning of the movie is now open, revealing a closet that has a hidden space behind it. Inside, she finds a glass of whiskey, and it turns out that this is the masked man's room, where he's been watching the couple. She switches on a TV that appears to be from the 1950s, but actually shows recordings from the present era. She now discovers that a cult called the Eden Group has formed an organization offering services to correct wives. The Eden Group promises husbands that their wives will learn to behave and cook dinners and bring married couples closer together as in olden days. Some of the clients claimed that their weekends with Eden Group saved their marriages. And the truth is that this rental vacation house is where this cult operates, even though this cult wants men to take back control of their marriages in a weird way. Emma then finds another video that reveals the truth. It shows the videos where Henry dumping out his whiskey on their first night in the house, and then changing Emma's clothes the night. And he also faked being hurt earlier when he went out of the house. He also helped in bringing Ryan into the house. Emma is deeply hurt by the realization that her husband is behind all of this. When she looks at the screen, she sees Henry and the intruder dumping Ryan's body. And heading back in, she quickly gets out of the hidden room and pretends to be unconscious again. Henry and the man, aka the host of the cult, then talk about using the video of Emma killing Ryan as an opportunity to control his wife as promised. The intruder then finishes his task. Meanwhile, Henry carries Emma to the car. Then they both go inside to look for Henry's car keys, but it turns out Emma took them from the hidden room. While they're away, Emma jumps into the front seat. Suddenly, she remembers that if she tries to escape, the sonic shocker device will send an electronic signal to her head. So she uses the car key to remove the device from behind her ear. She is about to start the car when the masked man shows up. She then managed to kick the host away and free herself, escaping into the fields. But during her escape, she trips and the host tries to activate the sonic shocker. But then he realizes that she had removed it. Emma runs as fast as she can, and using the fake blood Henry used to pretend he was injured earlier, she makes tracks leading the man away. She hits him on the face with a shovel, causing the host to fall back and hit his head on a branch, and he dies instantly. Emma takes back the keys and removes the shocker device from his wrist right when Henry arrives. Then she pretends that she just woke up and was attacked by the man. Taken aback by the host's death, Henry acts normally and almost believes the story. But when he notices blood from her ear, he realizes Emma removed the control device, and she must have figured out the truth. He then asks Emma to go into the house and retrieve all their important things together. Once they get inside, Emma tries to use the device to shock Henry, but it turns out he have removed his device as well. Henry then attacks her, forcefully pushing her head onto the ground. Luckily, Emma manages to break free by hitting his balls and scratching his face. She runs to the kitchen while Henry chasing her, stabbing her in the leg, and Emma smashes a bottle of whiskey on his head. She then hurries to the hidden room and grabs the sonic shocker injector. Just as Henry shows up, she uses it on him right away. He then throws her to the ground and begins to explain that he did all of this for her. He then says that he's going to kill Emma after injecting the sonic shocker into her, but he didn't do it because Emma apologized him. But then Emma grabs the sonic shocker device she took from the leader of the Eden group. She sends a powerful electric pulse through Henry's head until it fries his brain. She then tosses the device into a cup of whiskey and leaves the house in the car. After removing her wedding ring, she's driving away. She stops the car when she sees a car crash in the distance, and it turns out that Joe is still alive. She then helps Joe in the car. When he wakes up, he thanks her, calling her Mrs. Barrett. After hearing this, she tells him to call her Emma, and this is where the movie ends. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe my channel.